Hello guys, welcome back to Java session. Today we are going to cover the usage of try block, catch block and finary block. Along with this, we are going to see the differences between throw and throws, right? So as of now, we covered this architecture, different types of exceptions. There we have the built-in exceptions and user-defined exceptions. So in built-in exceptions, we covered these checked exceptions and we covered a few examples for the unchecked exceptions, right? So after covering the try, catch, and finally block, then I will take few more examples on these checked exceptions. So what is this try, catch, finally means? Better understand here. So we use this try block which is used to hold the exception code, right? You are suspecting like, sir, so and so statement which may raise the exception, that exception code, we will place it in the try block. If there is an exception in the try block, what will happen? That code will be thrown to the catch block, right? Sir, does try can exist alone? Beta, this try, you should create try block either with catch block or with finally block. You cannot take try block alone. So try with catch or try with finally, or you can take try catch finally combination is also possible, but you cannot take try alone, right? So if there is any exception in the try block, we will throw that exception to the catch block. Catch block is used to handle that exception. In catch block, we will create object to the relevant exception. For example, if there is a arithmetical exception, sir, in try block, there is a chance of occurring the arithmetical exception. Then we will create object to the arithmetical exception, right? For that class, we will create an object, right? And in catch block, you can perform alternative action or you can display a message to the user like system.out.println. You cannot divide a number by 0, or the file which you are trying to open that is not found, right? This kind of messages you can display it in the catch block. Now, sir, for example, I don't know what kind of exception is raising in the try block. So in this case, what to do? Better in try block, you placed a statement, right? That statement is raising the exception. You thrown that exception to the catch block. In catch block, sir, I want to know about that particular exception. So whenever you don't know about that particular exception, create object to the exception class. This is a super class for all exceptions. By using object of that class, you can call the print stack trace method. So what it will do, it will give you the exceptional details, why that exception is occurring, where it is occurring. So the entire details will be given by this print stack trace method, right? This is the use of try block. Try block will hold the exception code and the catch block, which is used to handle that exception, right? It is the alternate for the try block. Now, sir, can I place extra statements, the statements which may not raise the exception? Can I place those statements in the try block? Beta, the statements which are not going to raise the exception, you should not place those statements in the try block, because if the first statement is raising the exception, then rest of the statements will not be executed. That exception will be thrown to the catch block. In catch block, you are handling the exception, and from there you will continue your flow. That in the sense, these statements we won't execute. That's what, never write the statements which are not raising any exception, right? Those statements you need to write out of catch block or outside of the finally block so that they can execute after the catch and finally, right? So then what is the purpose of this finally block? Beta, in certain situations where you need to execute certain statements at any cost. Sir, I have 3 or 4 statements. I want to execute these statements irrespective of exception. If the exception is going to occur, still I want to execute these statements. Sir, exception is not occurred, even though I want to execute these statements. That in the sense, in spite of the exception, you want to execute certain statements at any cost, you will place those statements in the finally block. The statements which are placed in the finally block, they gets executed at any cost, right? So you can take this finally block with the combination of try and finally, try catch finally. These are all the combinations, right? Sir, does try can exist with the multiple catch blocks? So I'm taking a try block, sir. For a single try block, can I take the multiple catch blocks? Of course, beta. A single try block can contains the multiple catch blocks, because let's say, sir, I'm writing 2 statements here. Here, the first statement is raising one kind of exception. Then it goes to the first catch block, the relevant catch block, right? The second one is raising another exception. It will go to the another relevant catch blocks. So this is the way a single try block can contains the multiple catch blocks, right? Now, this is the purpose of the try, catch, and finally. Now, we will see examples for this. Then we will see the difference between throw and throws. Anyhow, first we will understand this throw, right? Then we will go to the throws. Throw is the keyword which is used to throw the user defined exception. Let's say, sir, I am raising a exception based on a condition, right? I want to throw that exception. Then we use this throw keyword, right? Sir, what is this throws keyword? Better throws keyword, which is used to declare the exception within the method signature only, right? Let's say you have some predefined exception. Sir, I want to declare that. So then we use the throws keyword. That in the sense you are giving the information about that particular exception in the method signature only. For that purpose, we use the throws keyword. This is the difference between the throws and throws. Sorry. Now let's see the examples for using this try, catch, finally, along with throw and throws. Right. So this is example for array index out of bounds exception. This is a unchecked exception. Now, what I'm doing, I'm taking a class. My class name is example. There, what I'm doing, I'm taking a display method. Right. Within this display method, I'm taking the try block. In try block, I'm created an array with size 5, right? That in the sense 5 blocks of memory is going to be allocated 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the memory addresses. What you are trying to do, a of 6 is equal to 10, right? This A array, it has up to 4 index only, right? Where you are trying to store, you are going out of index and you are trying to store the value, right? In this particular case, what will happen? This particular statement will raise the exception. So that exception will be thrown to the catch block, right? Sir, if I don't write this statement in the try block, what will happen? The program will terminate abnormally and it won't execute completely, right? So that's what I'm doing, I'm placing that particular statement in the try block. So if there is an exception in the try block, that will be thrown to the catch block. In catch block, sir, I don't know what kind of exception it is. So I told you, create object to the superclass for all exceptions. By using that, you can display the details, right? You can display that exception, or if you want more details about that, you can call the print stack trace, right? This is a way of handling the exception. Now, sir, this is a try block which is closed here. This is a catch block. It is closed here. I'm closing the display method. Next, I'm closing the class. Now, I don't have main method here. I'm taking one more class, array index out of bounds exception. Next, I'm taking the main method. Now I'm creating object to the example class. Now x dot display. Whenever you are calling display method, x is the object of example. In example, we are calling the display method. Then we will try to execute this. There will be an exception that will be thrown to the catch block. Catch block will handle it, right? This is a way of handling the exception by using try and catch. Now, if you want, I will execute this. So Java space, your class name. Right? It's compiled successfully. All the exceptions are going to be raised at runtime only. Right? Now you can see java.lang.array index out of bounds exception, right? It is occurred at line number 9, right? This is how it is going to raise the array index out of bounds exception, right? So this is a way we have different exceptions. Then rest of the programs I'm not executing Vita. You execute these, I will explain these programs. Yeah. So, sir, what is this? Beta, this is the example for number format exception. Here, I'm taking the string. So that string, I'm trying to convert it into integer. Whenever you are trying to convert the string into integer, then number format exception will occur that I am throwing to the catch block. In catch block, I'm handling it, right? Then you have the null pointer exception. Sir, what is this null pointer exception means? Here you are taking a string without any value. 1 minute, beta. Array index out of bounds, arithmetical. These are all we covered. Null pointer exception. So here you can see you are taking a string and you are assigning null to the string and you are trying to find the length of the string. So for null, we cannot find the string length. If you are trying to find the length, then it will raise the exception. That exception will be thrown to the catch block. In catch block, we are creating object to the appropriate exception, that is null pointer exception, and we are displaying why it is occurring, right? These are all the different ways of different unchecked exceptions, right? Sir, how to handle, how to use the finally block? I will take one more example. Yeah, guys, this is the example for try, catch, and finally. Here, what I'm doing, I'm trying to open the file. There, I'm calculating the number of arguments in the main method array. So I'm dividing that number of arguments with 45. If the number of arguments are 0, then it will raise the exception here, right? If there is an exception, then we will throw it to the catch block. In catch block, I'm sending a message to the user. You cannot divide it by 0, or you can display the details, right? Then after executing the catch block, we will go to the finally block. In finally block, I'm sending a message to the user, like I'm closing the file, right? So here, this is the first case. When we have an exception, that time we are executed finally block. For example, while running the program, I'm passing some arguments to the main method array, right? Let's say 4 arguments I'm passing. Then the length of the array is 4. Then 45 divided by 4, you'll get some value, right? So whenever you are getting some value, then there will be no exception. Then we will print the a value. After that, when we don't have any exception in the try block, we will skip the catch block and we will jump to the finally block and we will execute the finally block statements. Then it comes out of the block. That in a sense, this finally block gets executed irrespective of exception. If you have an exception, it will execute, or if you don't have any exception, even though that gets executed. If you want, I will show you here. Yeah. So I'm compiling here and I'm running here, opening the file, number of arguments, we have not passed anything, right? Number of arguments are 0. So it is raised exception and it is thrown to the catch block. In catch block, we displayed a message and we are closing the file. Now, same thing, I'm passing the number of elements, right? Here you can see we are passed 5 arguments. Open the file, number of arguments are 5 and the value of A is something 45 divided by 5, you are getting 9 and closing the file. That in a sense, this finally block that gets executed in both cases, right? So where we use this finally class, what is the use case? Beta, whenever we are dealing with the database, usually to close the connection, connection closing statements, we will place it in the finally block. So if you lost the connection, even though if there is any exception while communicating with the database, or you are connected with the database, you are performing some transaction in between, there is a communication loss, then you need to close that connection at any cost. Then we use this finally block to close that connection, right? So that is the use case where we are going to use this finally block, right? This is all about a usage of try, catch, and finally. So already we covered the example for the throws to specify the uh, exception details in the method declaration, right? Now we are going to cover user defined exception, right? How to create user defined exception and how to throw it to the catch block, that we are going to cover, right? Chalo guys, thank you.